Everyone is gay, the Marvel story. If you ain't interracial, gay, trans, furry, then you ain't Marvel, Jack. Here's the thing. Most people are straight. Gay is actually somewhat rare. People acting gay might be more common. At least people acting like stereotypes of 80s sitcom gay is common in comics. I did a Marauder review yesterday. They had all the male characters acting. These are the male heroes. People who are supposed to be the heroes. They were acting like gay stereotypes, but I said, unfortunately, some un-PC things, and YouTube is so strict now that if you make a joke about Iceman's superpower is giving people, well, I'll say a social disease, you'll get kicked off YouTube. The three sacred cows of social media are the two Abrahamic religions, not Christianity, and LGBT, and if you joke about them, they'll send you to the cornfields. I watched the Lord of the Rings on Bitchute last night. They couldn't make it today because it's too similar to the current destruction of Europe by the orcs of Mordor. And orc and goblin, as far as I know, is that hate speech in 2020? It might be. Movies post the 2020 BLM riots are going to be a mess. It's going to be a lot of gay cowboys eating pudding, except now that they'll be black and trans, because that is how the West was won. Gay, black, trans cowboys. So Bleeding Cool had an article about the Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing possibly ending at issue 50. And I hate Al Ewing so very, very much, with good reason, that it would just be a rehash of the stupidity of issues 1 and 11. In Al Ewing's world, all the gangs are blonde, blue-eyed guys, and the streets are full of them robbing and struggle-snuggling people, which is kind of odd because he lives in the UK where 90% of that activity is by people who don't fit that description. Maybe he thinks America is different. Anyway, the Immortal Hulk also has a trans character, which is awesome. Please don't kick me off YouTube. I love the trans. Why not just make the Hulk trans while you're at it? Just add a dash of lipstick and maybe some eyelashes or something. So Star-Lord, well, I said he's a sea sucker, so I'll just have to rephrase that to say he loves the penis. Is that acceptable? He went past interracial and he went all the way into a gay interspecies erotica. Al Ewing looks like he would hug a naked alien in a hot tub. Most of us wouldn't. We draw the line at hugging the same sex while nude in a hot tub. Not wanting to bang dudes doesn't make us transphobic. We don't feel sexually attracted to furniture either. We're just wired to not want to bang objects whose purpose is not to be banged. There are no sexy bookshelves. Gays are a few percent of the population, and trans is less than 1%. But in comics, about half the characters are gay or act like caricatures of gays. And here's the sad, effed up thing about comics. They're not subtle. It's a mixed media of graphic and text. So when they want diversity, they'll use Africans because they're visually distinct, where Spanish are harder to distinguish from Middle Eastern or Mediterranean types, at least in the time allotted that the artist has to present it in that format. They want to get the most virtue signaling dopamine that they can get, which is why you get an overrepresentation in advertisements, movies, and comics of Africans instead of Spanish, which is why Iceman is such a joke of a character, because they figure, what is the point of having a subtle gay character? They feel it's just a wasted character. The second part is that the people who work in comics are filthy, perverted degenerates who I wouldn't trust to not molest the furniture. Same goes for Hollywood. It's folks like Epstein, Weinstein, Roman Polanski, Woody Allen, people who, well, you know what they do. So F Hollywood and comics. Make your own entertainment, or read a book, or better yet, write a book or a comic. Every hour you spend watching Hollywood propaganda is an hour better spent doing anything else. Get on DLive and Bitchute. Make a channel. Who knows? Maybe you could be the next Salty Cracker or Nick Fuentes. Salty was on DLive last night, and he had 23,000 in a live stream on DLive. Download the app. Trust me on this. YouTube is not the future. They want to focus on makeup tutorials and unboxing videos. You know, the videos on YouTube that get huge hits are they have that soy mouth, that the guys or the girls with the open mouth, as if they're so surprised, and they're pointing to some stupid object with that stupid expression on their face, just open mouth, waiting for you know what. That gets 10 million views. Anyone who goes against the narrative is going to get kicked off. And that probably includes Comicsgate and Fandom Menace channels, because Comicsgate does go against the narrative. Even people as milquetoast and normie as DNC and EVS might get kicked off because they do push back and offer criticism to the mainstream narrative, even if it's in a joking way. EVS running over Rose Tico dolls now would be more of a problem than it was a few years ago. If Yellow Flash tried to stab comics with a Bowie knife now, he'd probably get kicked off as a violent, racist misogynist. Modern YouTube is not what it was even a few years ago. Almost all the 2016 MAGA right-of-center channels are gone now. They nuked everyone from the far right to Alex Jones. So for the... Oh, look, this is him being heterosexual. So for the big Comicsgate Phantom Menace channels, it may only be a matter of time. But the good news is that it is easy to get on DLive and start migrating your customers over there. Just get them to at least download the app and maybe start broadcasting. Do some Comicsgate stuff over there. You'll be surprised at the reception you get. I listen to a lot of streams on DLive. It's as good as YouTube is right now, and in terms of content, it's better because there are people who are just not allowed on YouTube. They're all on DLive. And it has a lot of other advantages to it about being able to move smaller amounts of money around live in the chat and being able to gift subscriptions live in the chat to other people. There's a lot. It's a better platform. Anyway, but I don't think people are aware of how far DLive has come. It's like in the 80s when Japanese cars went from being a joke to a fair competitor to actually being superior to American cars. And I mean, American cars have since caught up, but unless you make videos, you don't know how bad the YouTube censorship has gotten. Anything that goes against the narrative is going to get you a hate strike speech, and eventually they're just going to kick you off the platform if you're too much of a problem. If you're I don't know, like Tug and Yellow Flash, if they were, when they did that Vic stuff, the Kick Vic crowd, if they were doing that now, they would get so many complaints that YouTube would probably look at the channels and go, you know what, one's got 100,000, one's got 200,000. They're getting a lot of complaints. It's just easy enough to get rid of them. And you think, oh, well, all these right-wing political channels, they're going to lose all this money if YouTube kicks them off. It's like 1% of YouTube's revenue. If you look at their trending pages and their recommended pages, that kind of stuff, it's just the stupidest stuff. It's like, Good Mythical Morning and, God, who's that guy? Just that, oh, God, he's, good morning, you beautiful bastards, that guy, I don't remember his name. It's just that kind of fake, plastic, garbage content. And the thing is, even some CG channels are kind of, like, there are important things to talk about, and there's important criticism to offer to comics. Like, comics matter, yes, in the sense that they're pushing very serious racist propaganda, and it's important to push back against it. And if you're not allowed to do that on YouTube, then it makes a lot of CG, like live streams, kind of boring. Because they're not able to sell. And I love Cecil. I love his sense of humor. Very funny. But even the channels that I loved, they're not able to be as funny as they used to be because they're just not able to say the things they used to say, because it's like, oh, well, you can't harass another creator. You can't harass people on YouTube now. It's like, well, where does harassment and criticism, where do those cross over? It doesn't take much to get a channel nuked, and these people, it's like they just want to hold on to what they have instead of like trying to expand. So you get these live streams that are just kind of very room temperature, not a whole lot going on. Then you go over to DLive, and it's like, it's not people dropping N-bombs and 1492ing and doing all that kind of silly nonsense. It's YouTube 10 years ago where people were having a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And people on YouTube now, it's like, they're going full 1984. So if if you're in these big condom fandom, should I say Comicsgate and Fandom Menace? I hope nobody got to the end of this video. Those channels, you might not be long for YouTube, especially if you're kind of a firebrand. Like Zach was very smart to get off Twitter when he did, because being off Twitter means he's not going to get half the complaints he used to get. But even Zach, like, he's got a great channel, and he froze at 106. That's kind of weird. Like, there are more people who are into comics. So anyway, like, comment, subscribe, and download DLive. Check it out. You'll thank me for it. All right, see you next episode.